Moonshots. Great to have you guys here. If you're new here, welcome. Let's jump straight into it. So last time we were talking about how we were happy that this 0.007 support line held, right? And then I said that if there is, big candles like these ones, right? Like let's see, like these ones right here, right, where it pushes the price up, then we can even, pass this level of resistance to 0.013, right? But if you look at the 4 hour, the bulls and bears have been kind of fighting, The bulls push through, right? And then the bulls look exhausted right there. And then the bears come in and the bulls come in. So it's just kind of going back and forth. It's kind of like a war zone. But I think that I don't think we have enough push right now to just go up, right? Because the candles aren't big enough, the bulls aren't strong enough. It keeps going back and forth, and the bears have been winning this battle, right, for the past 2-3 days, and it's on a downwards trajectory, right? So there's good news and bad news. The good news, right? The good news is that we've held this line of support at 0.007, and as you can see on the left hand side, we kept holding it, kept holding it, kept holding it, kept consolidating, accumulating, and then it shot up, and then we distributed right there, and then came back down, right? So we held this 0.007 line, right? And when we look at it closely, we also held it here, right? Normally, when something touches a line of support for the first time, right, it bounces off, right? It bounces off, and that's what I assume is going to happen, right? So now, the good news is that we're holding that line, right? The bad news is if we don't hold that line of 0.007, is the next level of support could be right there, right? So it wouldn't look too good if it drops below that line. Okay, so I kind of keep an eye on it. I think that's going to happen? Absolutely not. But obviously anything can happen in crypto. But if it does dip below that 0.007, the next line of support based off technical analysis is 0.003, right? So that's half. That's pretty much half your money from the 0. More than half, right? So um, I really want us to hold that line of support, and I think we will. However, if we look at these trend lines, and we kind of zoom in here, right? First of all, just look at the trajectory, overall trajectory, right? It's kind of been on a downfall, the overall trajectory. The bearish candles have been pretty big. They've been pretty big, and there was a big one right there which touched us to 0.007 and then pushed us back up, and then but yeah, the overall trajectory right now, the trend line is looking negative, right? So do I think that we're going to touch this line again? I think there's a good chance that we will. I think there's a good chance that we're going to touch that 0.007 level, right? But I think that if we can hold it as support, like we did here a bunch of times, we held it as support, 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week, right? The more we hold this as support, right? The more the coin is accumulating, right? And then if it's accumulating, then the only way it's going to go is up, right? So it's just a matter of time before this coin explodes, right? As long as we hold that line. Now, let's take a look. Let's kind of zoom in here, right? Let's look at that 0.008 level, right, which is the next level of support, right? So we pushed up here, right? This bull kind of looked exhausted. It did wick up, and then the bears pushed it back, and then as you can see right there's around 3 wicks that kind of held that 0.008 level, right? And then we came back down, and then we came back down below it, and then the bearish body formed below it, and then we went back up, and that's just what's been going on. It's just been a full-on war zone. It doesn't know what it wants to do. So people are trying to kind of keep it in these levels for now, right? People are buying and selling off in these levels, right? So it's also important to look at this trend line, because ideally, and I am so sorry for moving the graph so much. Let me just fix this real quick. Ideally, we want to break above this trend line, right, and use it as support. Okay, if we can use that as support, right, then the next level of resistance is right there, right? I think it's a little too risky if we consolidate in these levels. I'd rather have us consolidate in these two levels because worst case scenario, if the bears are strong, we have another level of support right there, right? But if we consolidate in these two levels, right? If we consolidate in these two levels, that makes it a little more risky because the next level of support, like I mentioned earlier, is at 0.003. Okay, so ideally, what I want to happen is that we break through that trend line right there, right? We break through that trend line, use that as support, and then use that as, again, if the bulls aren't strong enough, which they don't look like they've been, and then consolidate between these two levels and kind of, forget about this level, right? I want us to move on from this level. We already used it here, I don't want to, if you look at the overall trajectory of, like if we kind of zoom out, and you look at, this basically looks like a pyramid, right? It's called a peak, right? This is a peak. If you draw this, like, right, it looks like a peak, right? So in these type of triangles, right? First of all, you can draw a line of resistance right there, right? In these kind of triangles, what you want to happen is you want this side of it, you want to break through that side, okay? So that's what you want to happen, because once you break through the right side of the triangle, that's a bullish sign, right? So I think that's what is going to end up happening. It is being a little bit slow. I think the reason for that is, again, it shot up so much, right? And corrections are healthy in cryptocurrency because they establish levels of support and resistance. So like the fact that you know the fact that it came back and touched this level of support, this 0.007, tells us that that's a good line to keep in mind for the future, right? That's a good line to keep in mind for the future because it's tested it multiple times, right? And then this 0.008 level, right there, right? And now it's kind of consolidating in between it. So it's good that we're establishing these lines. However, I do want us to break through here, right? So if I'm going to make a prediction? I think that honestly, it's hard to say, right? It's hard to say, but I think that it is a possibility that we might test this line again, unfortunately, right? And then uh, I want us to consolidate, and then I want us to go up here, and then you again stay between those levels, right? Unless that that can another thing that can happen, another thing that can happen is if we break this trend line, then we're looking good. If we break that trend line, I think that we're going to stay in between these two levels. I don't think we're going to come back down to 0.07, right? But the fact that we did come down, right, and tested it once tells me that there's a possibility of it happening again. Okay? So let's look at the news real quick. So today there was a drop, and if you guys don't have the Veve app, I think you should download it because you can get these NFTs for like 13, 14, 15 bucks, right? Super super duper cheap, and you're going to be one of the first people. If you, like, for example, if you hold this, right, for, I don't know, 6 months, a year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, just like sports cards, right? These are going to be the OGs. Think about it. You're going to be holding one of the cards that first came out when the app came out, right? And like, who knows, like 5 to 6 years from now, like that might be worth 50, 60, $70,000. No one knows, right? Obviously. Um, but you guys, if you're listening to this video, you're one of the originals, right? That got on this coin. So I honestly think there's more profit to be made with these collectibles because they literally go for like 13, 14, $15, and like you can sell them for like 1K, right? Like I don't know 500 plus, next week, like right when they update the marketplace, right? So this dropped today. It's okay if you didn't get it. I suggest following the Ecomi Twitter. And then this one, the Back to the Future DeLorean, is also coming out. If you go on the app and then you go to if you go to the collections, or if you go to the store and then if you click on upcoming, it tells you the drop date. So that's coming out in 1 day, 21 hours and 7 minutes as of right now, okay? So there's more profit, in my opinion, to be made with these NFTs than with the actual coin right now. So I really recommend, if you're not, on it or whatever, and the app it works, it works. It looks good. It's just, it's not like fully developed, right? And then if you go on their website and you click on Medium, they also do YouTube videos and they do updates, right? So they're developing and doing upgrades to their app, right? And then I think that the only thing that might be holding them back a little bit is, the app doesn't look, it's not that user friendly. It's kind of confusing at first. Obviously, if you learn it, it'll be super easy, but it's in the beta stage, right? So you're one of the first ones, and that's the price you pay for being one of the first ones. But the reward is so rewarding because, again, like you could sell these NFTs a week from now for like 500-600, but if you hold them for like 1 or 2 or 3 years, they're gonna be one of the original NFTs that came out in the beta app, right? It's like, I don't know, like beta, like Amazon, right? Or, like when sports cards first came out. Imagine getting like one of the very, very first sports cards, right? Like how much is that worth now? Like 40, 30 years later. Like probably millions of dollars, right? So, yeah, so we're one of the first people. Obviously, I believe that we're headed in this direction. I think that, we're in a digital era and NFTs are definitely going to be very prominent in this world. So, yeah, that's all I kind of wanted to talk about. Um, Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please hit that like button, subscribe, and join the Telegram, man. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one. Bye.